Hi guys, today we're going to do composite inverse expressions with non-special angles and variables. In other words, we are going to do something with triangle trig. Okay, so that's the sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. So we're going to be using those methods when we're working on this today. If you think about what you did yesterday, the sine of the cosine inverse of 1/2, what you did was you found the angle and then you are going to use that angle to find the answer. So this was the sine of, this would be pi over 3. So the angle here would be the sine of pi over 3. And the sine of pi over 3 is the square root of 3 over 2. So this was something that I could do using mental math, which is what I was hoping for yesterday. So today we're going to take a different approach to that because they're not going to be mental math problems. If I said I wanted the cosine of the tangent inverse of 5 over 12, okay, I'm going to draw a triangle. Remembering that the tangent of inverse of 5 over 12 is the same as saying the tangent of what equals 5 over 12. So I can draw a triangle over in quadrant 1 and use that. Tangent is opposite over adjacent, so this is 13. So when I do that, and I now know the angle, so I can say, what is the cosine of the angle in the triangle? Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so 12 over 13. Changing just a little bit from that, if I said, what is the sine of the tangent inverse of -5 over 12, then I can change this, and tangent is negative in quadrant 4. So I'm going to draw my triangle down here this time. So there's my angle. So opposite, -5 over adjacent 12, and that would be 13. So the sine of this angle is going to be -5 over 13. And that's really all we're doing in the process of this, is we're going to be just evaluating different angles. So if I wanted the cosecant of the cosine inverse of -2/3, draw your triangle, and remember cosine is negative in quadrant 2. So I'm going to come here, draw my triangle. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And using Pythagorean theorem, I would say 3 squared minus -2 squared is b squared. So 5 equals b squared, so b is the square root of 5. So square root of 5. The cosecant is with sine. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite. So hypotenuse over opposite would be 3 over the square root of 5. One that you could do and pause and try your own when you're doing that would be if I said I wanted the cotangent of the sine inverse of -1/3. So pausing your camera if you want to. Sine is negative in quadrant 4. So it is the opposite over the hypotenuse. So 3 squared minus -1 squared gives me 8. So this is the square root of 8. And I'm okay with you leaving it that way. So the cotangent of the angle, cotangent is adjacent over opposite, so the square root of 8 over -1, which is just going to be -8. Okay, I don't always have to have numbers. I can have variables, which makes this an algebraic expression. So if I said I wanted the tangent of the sine inverse of x over 3. Still drawing a triangle. This is positive in quadrant 1. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So that would give me 3 squared minus x squared equals b squared. So 9 minus x squared equals b squared. So this is the square root of 9 minus x squared. So the tangent of the angle is the opposite over the adjacent, x over the square root of 9 minus x squared. Be aware that the square root of 9 minus x squared is not equal to 3 minus x. So don't do that simplification process. One more, if I said I wanted the secant of the cosecant inverse of 3x. Still drawing a triangle. That's going to come here. Cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite. So that's 3x over 1. Okay, so hypotenuse is 3x and opposite is 1. So 3x squared minus 1 squared is b squared. So 9x squared minus 1 is b squared. So b is the square root of that. Okay, so the square root of 9x squared minus 1. And then if I'm looking for the secant is hypotenuse over adjacent. So hypotenuse is 3x over the adjacent, which is the square root of 9x squared minus 1. So these will work, triangles will work if there's an inverse on the inside. So even if it was a special value, you could use the inverse on the inside for that. So hopefully this was helpful as you're going through your lesson. You have a worksheet, and what you guys needed to do was 1 through 20. It still doesn't write. So if I said 1 through 20, even, and then 21 through 44, all. You guys have a good afternoon.